Hello everyone. Yes, we are live. Hi Jeffrey.
Hello.
Hi, welcome at the Guided Healing
Thanks so much.
and welcome to New York City.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yes. Hello everyone. We are at the Guided Healing in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, New York. And we have a heat wave in New York City. For those who don't know, we welcome you. Please say hi or thumbs up if you can see us and hear us well. And so we are here for a discussion about quantum and somatic healing and about the workshops that Jeffrey is going to present in New York City at the Open Center. Thank you for accepting our invitation.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Can you please tell us a little bit about who you are and about your healing work?
Yeah, Jeffrey Wium. I live in Hawaii and spend a lot of time traveling and doing retreats and programs in different places. There's a lot of activity in the world right now, as all you know, and a lot of discord, a lot of polarization, a lot of upset, a lot of everything that's been stuck inside and hasn't found release or healing is coming out in waves right now. So a lot of the work that I do is to address it somatically, which is to help the body to move it and to find authenticity and to find a means to walk through that which is uncomfortable and to bring it to a space so that the actual experience of it is reprogrammed into, let's say, a positive experience instead of a negative experience. So many times when we have these incomplete experiences or incomplete understandings of what's going on in the world or difficulties, they lock into our system in a way that blocks access to new experience. So what that means is if I have a relationship with you and I think that you're going to act a certain way all the time, I will avoid that because I don't want to be hurt or I don't want to experience that. And that effectively blocks me from recreating something and experiencing something I've never experienced from the exact same situation. So somatically it allows us to move our body with authenticity and to move in a way that brings the opportunity to experience the emotion that's blocked and to open ourselves up to life itself. As far as the quantum aspect, it's looking at it from aspect of the light frequencies that move through our body that in another form would be energy or sound, emotion, thought form, but it's all at its most refined point is light. And so the quantum work is to look and address where the mind is creating blockages, mental emotional tension fields, which are creating gates to close in our Shen or in our psyche to prevent us from experiencing the difficulty. But when we close off the dam, we create a dam, we don't get water, so to speak, downstream. There's no flow. There's no flow. There's no energy feeding the systems. So what happens is our body starts to decrease. Our energy starts to decrease. We start to then look outside for stimulants, caffeine, highs of various forms to compensate for the diminished energy that's created from the mental perspective. Because the only thing going on in our life is one's perspective of what we think is happening. And like I said, if we think the same thing's going to happen, we're going to prevent ourselves through our safety mechanisms from presenting and creating that which we've always longed for. So we have a self-creating vicious cycle that we need to learn how to turn into a virtuous cycle. And the quantum work is to look at that which is in dis-ease, in disharmony, in illness and difficulty, and learn how to listen to it, to identify it, and to work through the levels of light, sound, emotion, energy, and things like that, to reconstitute it into completion from the very incomplete thing that it comes from. So you have complete transmission happening, limited perspective, causing a negative perspective, and then cycling on itself, creating a karmic wheel that slowly diminishes one's energetic capacity because we are effectively blocking life from happening. And that happens on all levels, the mental, emotional, physical. A lot of our sexuality is blocked, a lot of our intimacy is blocked because we've grown afraid of each other, because we live in separation, we live in duality. And so the work is really, how do we address that? How do we understand these maps? And then giving very practical, very simple techniques to move yourself through this and become aware of how you can create life for yourself instead of becoming dependent on a practitioner. So learning how to fish instead of going someplace to get a fish. And at the same time, understanding that the process of going someplace, whether it be a practitioner or a workshop or program or retreat, is the very thing that teaches us how to become consciously competent so that we know how to address it when it comes up.
Because you walk through the process of moving through the blockage, moving the body, where is the somatic part, and then the quantum, where is the whole field, as you described it.
The consciousness part.
The consciousness part, and then you walk through those blockages, or you move through those blockages with a practitioner, and then you learn how to do it for yourself.
Exactly.
It sounds good.
Yeah. So I would add to that, we've come out of a time where we tend to follow a teacher, and now we've left that era, and now we're in a time where the inner teacher, the inner wisdom is coming forth. So the only thing that I would say, like I do, is I'm a tour guide. I'm saying, take a look at this, here's this, what do you feel? How can that move? And then authentically we bring that with sound, with emotion, with movement and dance, with that authenticity, so that it can complete, to use psychotherapy terms, the gestalt, to complete its full cycle back to the reality, and then learn quantumly how to address it, to bring it to resolution upon itself. And what's amazing about the quantum work is that which is incomplete is the source material for the completion itself. So we're not going away having to have some spiritual seeking or adventure or distraction.
Separate from our life. Yes.
It's integrating it all so that we have the tools to walk down the street and encounter that which is entangled and difficult, and know how to love that and bring that reflection and that example to the world.
Plus, I heard something about dance, so we're in our element.
Yeah.
Great. Hello, everyone. We are talking about quantum healing. Hello, Crystal. Hello, Maria. Thank you for watching. Thank you. Nice subject. That is from Greece. We will see you soon. Please ask questions if you have them. So we're talking with Jeffrey about his work and about quantum healing and about the workshops that are going to be presented in New York. You shared a little bit. If you want to tell us a little bit more about the film and about your relationship with Peru, and who are the Pacos and who are the Alto Misayos, because it's names that are coming up and people might be wondering.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for inviting me to New York. And so we created a set of programs at the Open Center. The 6th is going to be a screening of the film we made called Wisdom Keepers Paco Andino. And that's I would even call it a behind the scenes living account transmission from the lineage itself, as opposed to like an anthropological view of let's look at them from a subjective point of view. This is a film that was made by Pacos for the world as part of a transmission at this era when we are finding gaps in our society and need to understand that the ancient heart ways, the holistic ways, fit perfectly into those gaps and create a holistic approach. So the film is an hour and a half. We'll do a question and answer.
It is so beautiful.
Thanks.
It's so beautiful.
And it's just a way to understand here as opposed to here. It really acts as an ambassador, if you will, that allows one to experience what it is to live holistically in an ancient way, in heart intelligence, outside of the idea of possession, out of the idea of scarcity, outside of the idea of anything other than animistic consciousnesses, which is to be one with everything and all energies. And this is a tradition that was never broken, and it exists throughout the Andes, but is concentrated around Cusco. It is something that predates the Incas, and it stretches back to tens of thousands of years.
What are the names of those incredible mountains that I have? I know that Cusco Sacred Valley is located amongst 12 mountains, correct? Is it 12 mountains?
Oh, dozens.
Dozens of mountains, yes. And it's just so beautiful, and you have experienced this work and these healings with the Pacos. And something I wanted to say is that how incredible it is the way they live with so much love and respect for nature. That was...
As a man, the thing that really stood out the most is that the masculine there its strength is its softness. The Andean tradition is the sacred feminine mystery school, whereas the Egyptian is the masculine, Tibet is the sacred child, the neutral, the balance. So you have an ascending tradition that the masculine aspect of ourself supports it. The feminine aspect is the flower that receives the sunlight, the Incan sun. And then the seeds of consciousness are spread from that work. So for me, it was really the missing component to everything that I was searching for out in the various traditions, whether that be Native American or spending time in Tibet or in the jungles or where have you. And the lineage is represented by Pampa Messiaox, which Pampa means earth, those that embody the earth ceremonies, and the Alto Messiaox, which is a Spanish hybrid term, alto meaning high, misa meaning mass or prayers, and yoke, a Quechua word meaning one who embodies. So the Alto Messiaox, or the celestial Pacos, are those that have done their work in the terrestrial realms and then have been called to represent and be an intermediary between heaven and earth. And there's 6 different levels of that. Altogether, there are 13 levels of initiation within the system. Some schools of thought or some people that teach this say there's only 4 levels, but that isn't quite right.
There is a tremendous magic in those mountains and in the mountains in general on earth, and this was our first conversation, the magic and the wisdom that the mountains hold, and I feel that energy when I'm sitting here, so thank you for bringing that. New York needs this energy. I received some questions from our audience, and one of the questions, after sharing about the workshops in New York, we will also have the information under the video about the workshops in New York. First question, I believe, was answered regarding what is somatic and quantum healing. Is there anything else you want to say about that?
I think they're a perfect complement to each other, because to address things at a conscious level addresses the mind, and you receive information and you digest it, and then you bring it to your body. When you work somatically, it's the body that's churning and it's bringing awareness up to the mind. So you can think of it as reaching the heart from the belly and the head, which is the perfect balance.
Would you say that there is any meeting point with yoga tradition and Kundalini awakening?
Absolutely. It's all the same. Yoga means yoked to God. Bhakti yoga is actually the practice of that reverence. And so yoga was a means, the asanas were created some 9,000 years ago when the shaman, if you will, weren't accepted in the villages for doing the deep work of getting in touch with the animal side of themselves, the dark, the shadow. And so they went out and found caves for shelter. They sat for long periods of time, and then they realized that they were degenerating their bodies, so they started opening and finding the postures, and then it took away. So whether you call it shamanism, whether you call it yoga, it's all the same. The root of it is to better understand how to bring heaven to earth, or bring the workings of consciousness within the body and then within daily life.
And in every moment.
In every moment. And I would say, in general, people are looking for how to not separate their lives and live, this is my retreat and this is my daily grind, or what they call the real world, and make it over.
Yeah, which is happening a lot in this modern, very trendy quest for spirituality. It's just like, it's hard to integrate and leave it in every moment. It takes a lot of dedication.
It does. I would say that we have not adequately been supported to be our authentic self. So there's a lot of programming that goes on, a lot of peer pressure, a lot of social activity that says, look this way, look that way, to be a certain way. And really, the process of awakening is stepping back and really doing an accounting and taking off the fixtures, the mindsets, the separations, and doing that real authentic and even difficult work of getting in touch with that which is buried, that which has been run away from, that which is misunderstood. A lot of this stuff happens at an age where we just aren't psychologically developed enough to handle it.
Yes.
And so the reason why we're doing these programs the way we're doing them is the film is the ambassador to go back to that. And then the quantum is to understand how that works. And then the movements of the heart, the somatic aspect, is how to move that and take that into daily life. And I have found in the different places where we do this work that it really addresses all aspects. There's inspiration, there's understanding, and then there's experiential. And then when you have those three, you can do anything with them. And then you have different tools that you can take into your daily life and make a life for yourself.
And a practice. Yes. There was a question about intent and duality. And the question was about, yes, a lot of us have a certain practice and we're somewhere in that practice, but then sometimes very intense thoughts are coming in, or what people call negative thoughts, and then there's this fear, oh my God, I'm not protected, or what is going on, or why am I thinking this way? And so I asked this question came through a friend, and I wanted to share with the world. What is your opinion about that?
Yeah, well, I hope to spend my time outside of the dualistic concept. And so a lot of our thoughts, because we live in a duality or a separation, we think from that point of view. So we think in terms of positive and negative. And my feeling is that whatever's coming up, I'm attracting because it's my perspective that's thinking it. And if I'm afraid of something, I'm actually pulling that to me so that I have the opportunity to overcome the fear by learning how to love it. So if I'm generating a body of prayer that I want to be positive, because the very nature of our reality is dualistic, that gives us a chance through free will to choose light or dark, we're also generating negativity. So if we're operating from our heads, we're constantly creating both. And we all love the positive, but we don't realize that negative's conspiring to come and get our attention too. So if we drop down into our heart and we really go deep into the center of that, then we're operating in the Drumville of Melchizedek talks about the two toroidal fields, the energetic fields around us, that make up our aura, or part of our aura. And when they come together, it creates an inclusion. It creates a non-duality. And in that place is where we're creating beauty. So if I'm walking down the street and I attract a negative occurrence, there's something in me that is wanting to be able to bring that to resolution. There's a story of two monks long ago in Shanghai, when Shanghai was a very difficult place, very dangerous. And they said, we're going to walk across town to the other monastery. And everybody said, no, you can't do that because you'll be killed. But because they offered no war and no objectivity to anything, they moved through the town like water and nothing affected them, because they didn't present their side of the Velcro, so to speak. So what I find is, as I move through life, if I can see and ask, what is the opportunity that lies in this obstacle? And I can sit in Hawaii, we call it ho'oponopono. You take responsibility for your perspective, so that I am generating this body of thought, this perspective, and this man that comes to me to mug me, for example, is simply without money and funds and is desperate. The person that's yelling at me is sitting in a lack of love and is screaming at me for attention. So if I can get past myself and understand that this is an opportunity to not be offended and to be in empathy and compassion, then I'm generating a body of positivity or loving presence that is an offering. And sometimes people get really pissed off at that. How dare you love my anger? You know, and then you just bow gently and you say, you know, blessed be, but you just offer the water, and if they don't want it, that's the free will and that's the choice, because everything at some point is going to come to resolution. We just choose on how difficult we're going to make it for ourselves, you know?
Yes. I'm smiling because I know everything you're describing is years of work. But, you know, at the same time, it can happen with one experience, especially in the workshop on Saturday, when we move through and we see, from the moment you see that it's possible to shift
and
those.
We're going to give very specific and very easy, simple tools, so you can take any situation and bring it to resolution in a very short period of time. Almost too good to be true, but that's why it's called quantum healing. So a lot of people think, oh, quantum healing is this, that, and the other thing. It's known by many names, or many things are known as quantum healing. For me, there's two aspects. There's the cognitive work, and then there's a whole another body of work, which is based on freeing up resources and looking at the system holistically so that you have the courage, you have the patience, you have the resources to enter into situations that before now have been too difficult. So you can reassociate and then learn how to retrain the perspective. And it does take time. It's simple, but it takes time.
Time and practice. Yes. So hello everyone, Catherine and Dawn. Hello everyone. So the workshops are going to be at the Open Center. We're very honored to be there. And the other question, Jeff, was you're traveling a lot and you're meeting a lot of people in the workshops. What do you find that people need? What do you see that people need through your work or in this work?
Well, one, as we touched on earlier, is that people are tired of going to workshops and learning a whole new set of techniques and then going home and not being able to apply them to daily life. I've noticed that the turnout, and I've heard from many practitioners that the turnout at workshops is lowering now because, like in the Netherlands, people are just overloaded. They've done all kinds of stuff. They've been with this, they've been with that, they've been with the other thing. I have found, and I just did a tour in New Zealand, and the people there, whether it be New Zealand or South America or Europe or North America or Asia, are looking for very practical, very accessible ways to start to understand this chaos and difficulty and give themselves permission, as Catherine says there, to love your anger, to really come into a place where you don't fear that which could happen, but learn how to step up and say, I'm going to allow my fear to lead me to love. And so what I tend to focus on is I call it mystical practicalism. Right? How do I take the mystic and I make it so practical that I can apply it to changing a baby's diaper? How do I get into a place where I don't know what I'm doing and I'm scared senseless, but I'm communicating that to the person I'm with to such a degree that they feel that it's okay to start to open up into that intimacy? Because, you and I, meaning man and woman, have grown afraid of each other. And then in our relationships, we have situations where we're afraid that if I reach out across this void, that this means something, or I want something, or you want something. And I find that I see people snuggling with their animals. I see people snuggling with their children. But I don't see people in that space of safety with adult to adult, whether it be man to man.
It's very scary.
It's very scary. I was hanging out with a friend in Vermont last week, and we were sprawled out on the couch together, and he had his hand on my arm or my leg, and I felt him touching me, and I just felt, God, what a beautiful thing it is. It's just to sit in another person's presence and then just notice what comes up. And that ties in directly to the somatic work, the movements of the heart that we're going to be doing on Saturday at the Open Center, which is how do you authentically lay there and allow yourself to express through sound, through movement, through fear, through tears, through anger, so that it moves to a place where it can become something else instead of locked down in the fear of our experience.
Yes, because to be able to feel this touch and not freak out, you need to be able to be comfortable within yourself first. And so the somatic work helps you be comfortable within your own body by moving those.
And I think people, to answer your question directly, I think people are looking for the container, the facilitation, the space that is held adequately for practitioners that have done enough of their work to hold that and to allow that safety and that authenticity and that spontaneity to come out and be ugly and be crazy and tip over and be out of balance and be, and then I'm going to bring it over here. Because otherwise we just walk around like this, and we're afraid because that's what we experience at home.
Yes.
That's what we experience in our relationships.
Yes.
And I think what I see around the world is humanity making this incredible transformation, these giant strides into the unknown. And if I look at shamanic practice, one of the sayings is you gently lift up someone and invite them over the great abyss and then set them down gently on land that's very solid that they had no idea was there. So that eventually one will set an intention and take a step forward and the land itself will rise up and meet them. and create a new reality.
It is exactly when an example comes into my mind. When a healer is grounding, the earth comes up. As soon as you call in, I'm grounding, and I feel the earth comes up to meet you, like immediately.
Yeah.
And when you surrender and say, sky, please help me, immediately you align earth and sky, and you feel in a cocoon, and you feel protected to be able to lay hands on a person to do a healing. We never spoke so openly about hands-on healing, but it's happening. And the last question, and thank you for the sharing, it is related. You mentioned something about men and women, and I want to talk a little bit about the transference, this erotic transference, this misunderstanding that the man is going to make me happy or whole, or that the woman is going to give me something that I don't have. You know, what is this confusion and pain? There is so much pain about that. Where, you know, what is the healing response to that?
Well, I feel it comes from a state of separation and a state of misunderstanding. It comes directly from our relationships with our mother and father, because those two prototypes are the synaptic reality in our minds of what relationship is. And if there's damage that occurs, let's say between the son and the mother, then the son is going to go out, or the daughter to the father, or vice versa, whatever. The daughter to the mother, son to the father.
Good old Freudian
all of
stuff.
it, you know? Or all of the above.
Yeah.
You're going to go out with that equals home and that equals love, and you're going to look to regenerate the same situation so you can get back to the original break. And that happens at conception. You run into the incomplete aspect of your mother and father at conception as a soul level. And so, man, that stacks the deck against us in a very early age. And so the beauty and the divinity of that is it sets us up incarnationally so that we can learn to look at the tension that's on our bow, so to speak, aim our arrow properly, and let go into that which can be. And so we have been confused because, you know, like you said, we want something from each other, or we're afraid of something, or a partner will be afraid that, let's say I'm afraid that if my wife is around other men, that they may go off and leave me behind. I deal with that. I'm sure you deal with that. I'm sure everybody deals with that. Fear of loss of love.
Yeah, fear of loss of love.
And I'm not going to be loved. That original break, and that is just an indicator of our separation from our vertical relationship. What somebody may call God, what somebody may call Mother Earth. You know, so many people go out and do these New Age practices, and they get very high and airy, but there isn't adequate grounding for manifestation. The oak tree has equal roots and equal branches, and so when we get lost in the horizontal, like we're programmed to do.
We're here and
it's this. Yeah. And then if it's taken away,
we're freaking out about what's happening.
Or maybe we're even preconditioning, saying, I'm not going to go there and I'm going to sabotage this because I don't want to feel the pain of that separation. And what we're talking about is the fall of man, the fall of humans, that loss of vertical relationship where Eve picked the apple
and holistic
and handed it to Adam. And now one of my elders said, it's time to put the apple back on the tree. To take that which is divine and plug it in vertically so that I have adequate support from the masculine and adequate support from the feminine. And then I sit in reflection to one another, so that love is simply a field that we occupy, like Rumi talks about. And we say, I am in love with you. It doesn't mean I'm possessive and in love with you in this relationship. It's me saying what I think is I.
We're in this love.
We're in love.
As a whole.
Reflecting that. And then when we decide to be an intimate relationship, a sexual relationship, a primary relationship, then there is that godliness that develops and is held in that space that is holy. But it takes two people in their own wholeness, or holiness in my opinion, to be able to reflect that.
And to meet in that level.
And to meet at that level. And everywhere else it's just the art of war.
Yes, and I think what defines it for me, it is the no demand. It's something that we learn in Brennan Healing School, is we're all going around with this mirror. What are you going to give me? I want this and I want that, assuming that everything is not already inside. But just to
and I can say my stumbling and my greatest challenge is that I forget that everything that I'm seeing, my perspective, I'm seeing myself. but I'm thinking it's somebody else. And if I can fix that or blame that or push it away, then I'll somehow be better or validated.
It's their fault. Yeah.
And I just constantly remember in my relationship with this beautiful woman, Catherine Bjorkstein, you know, she's constantly just holding up that mirror to me and saying, you know, if you can occupy your holiness, then you are giving me permission to stand in mine through my own misunderstandings. And then in doing so, she provides a space for me to stand next to her.
The goddess is teaching you. Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching us. This is a beautiful space created in New York City for all this healing that we're talking about. So we are welcoming you at the Open Center Thursday the 6th for the film screening, Friday the 7th for the introduction to quantum healing, and Saturday the 8th all day for the full day workshop. It's September. A lot of magical new beginnings are happening. Thank you for watching us, and please post your questions. There is so much to share.
Should we give them? And let's just add, if you want more information about it, you can go to wisdomkeepersproject.org and click on the schedule, and you'll find those events there and how to ticket and addresses and all that.
Yes, I'm going to plug that address under this conversation. And also Guided Healing is coming with some exciting news. So please join us. Thank you for watching us, and have a beautiful, beautiful evening.
Thank you so much.
Bye.